Running commentary. We are exploring listening to albums. It is a lost art form. We took an hour out of our day. We switched off the phones. We switched off the computers. We did not answer the door. We sat down and we listened to the artist's vision and concept. D'Angelo, Voodoo. We asked fellow performer R.A. Harmony to join us today to help us review this album. All right, why don't you tell us a little bit about where people can find your music and what you've been doing recently?
Pretty much on all the digital stores, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, Rhapsody, eMusic, pretty much doesn't matter. So just type in Orion Harmony. I have a single out right now. It's called Red. And you can pull it up just like that. Even on YouTube, same name, Orion Harmony Music.
Very nice. So I want to just go ahead and sort of introduce the album. Voodoo is the second album by D'Angelo. It has sold 1.7 million copies in the US and was recorded at the Electric Lady Studio on West State Street in New York. Produced by D'Angelo himself and Dominique Trenier, who was his manager at that time, as executive producers. DJ Premier and Raphael Sadiq are also credited as producers. Released on Chiba Sound through Virgin Records, it had been Michael Eugene Archer's first album in 5 years. D'Angelo was the son of a Pentecostal minister from Richmond, Virginia, and D'Angelo had won the amateur talent competition at Harlem's Apollo Theater 3 weeks consecutively.
I remember that.
The young performer had taught himself to play piano at a young age. Voodoo is a Grammy Award-winning album, twice actually, Best R&B Album and Best Male R&B Vocal. The album was released in January 2000 and debuted at number 1 and spent 33 weeks on the album chart. I want to turn the first track over to you, alright, which is the track Player Player.
Player, player. First of all, I love this track. It's not so much to say because it's kind of common, but at the same time, D'Angelo was giving his personal experience of being a ball player. And so I really related to this track a lot because one of my first songs was about basketball. And I was like talking trash and he's like, I can handle the rock, I can hit you with the 2 shots. So this was just a really fun track to me and very personal. So that's one thing I really liked about it.
Excellent, and well, thank you for that information about D'Angelo's background there in sports, which I wasn't aware of. Not knowing that about him, what I have is that it's uncompromised R&B here. We have really sexy horns, nice hard rhythm and bass, shoot your best shot. It is certainly the genuine inner voice of an African-American male performer. There's no thrills here. This is actually who this person
Very
is.
genuine, yes.
And it has deep-rooted connections in what has come before it musically.
Yeah, so he's like, bring the drama, I'll take over the show. And so, how can you not tell he's a basketball player? He has a basketball player body.
Well, we're not all of us are looking the way you are. Anyway, moving swiftly on. Devil's Pie is the next single. I'm sure this is going to be a very interesting...
Oh, goodness.
Why don't I start this one out? What I noticed here is that the R&B borders hip-hop very clearly.
Yes.
That line between R&B, hip-hop, they are side by side. Fuck the slice, want the pie. Intensely sexual lick and stick brand of masculinity. What is the devil's pie? I mean, it could be anything. Drugs and thugs are mentioned, so if you put those two things into the mix, it doesn't make the options particularly nice ones. Regardless, I think this is a great follow-up song on the album. I enjoyed it thoroughly, and I did buy this album actually when it came out originally in 2000, so I do have a little bit of history with the record.
One thing, this was definitely a quick flip from the first track. So he's definitely going over the desires of our human flesh. As you say, you pointed out women's prostitutes, thugs, and he's really saying that even though I'm aware that this is a sin and I'm living a sinner's life, I don't want just a slice of this pie because this is so good. I want the whole thing. And that pie, of course, he's, making it aware it's the devil's pie because it's a sin and it's something.
What do you imagine his father's feelings were about this song? Being a minister.
I can kind of relate because I'm a PK. I'm a preacher's kid as well. And his dad probably wasn't all that thrilled about it. But at the same time, I'm sure his dad really respected this track because it was true. It's a lot of facts in this track where people know that they're doing wrong, but they want to continue to do it anyway. So that's why I really like this track as well.
Oh, wow. Okay, great. So why don't you lead us on? We've got Left and Right, which was released as a single with Method Man, Redman from the Shaolin, from the Wu-Tang Clan.
Oh, gosh.
What were your feelings about this?
This was just pretty much a fun song. You can definitely tell that he was feeling this girl and he was trying to see what was her interest. Do you want to be treated like a queen or do you want to, are you kind of a nasty kind of girl? And so I feel like that's what he was trying to do.
And I'm delighted that you were able to decipher the lyrics here, because apart from smacking ass and pulling hair, which I definitely listen, we've all done it. Method Man and Redman are at home on this track, as a ripped and cut D'Angelo talks about smacking ass and pulling hair. Cited at one point as being in a top ranking for romantic albums, I don't think the Hearts and Flowers brand of romance is what they had in mind.
No, especially with him telling her, yeah, I can take you places, just give me a try. I've heard that before, and it's just like, this is kind of getting old here.
This track is likely to leave, I've put here that this track is likely to leave lovers in a humid tangle. And what, for goodness sake, is wrong with that?
Well,
Maybe we should...
I will say, though, one thing about this track. I do love the references in this track. He used, of course, it was Kung Fu was really popular in the 1970s, and they used that track as well as No Scrubs by TLC. They mentioned that. And also a couple that I really liked, and I'm probably showing my mental age here, when he mentioned Joni and Chachi and Saturday Night Fever. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is, so I was definitely loving the references here.
I want to let you know here, I don't know if you were aware of this, but Left and Right was supposed to feature a verse by Q-Tip.
Yes, and he wound up getting scratched.
He did, because Dominique said that the rap was whack.
And nobody was feeling it.
So we're on to The Line, which is track 4 on D'Angelo's Voodoo. D'Angelo has made it abundantly clear he is a fan of Prince, and it's certainly present on The Line. Yes. I think D'Angelo's advantage over Prince from a sensual standpoint when it comes to music making is the lack of ambiguity. With Prince, there's this sort of urbane, kind of sophisticated, I know I'm a worldwide star thing going on, and there's nothing wrong with that. Prince is a huge star. But I think D'Angelo brings that funk home. It's a more homegrown, less urbane funk. It delivers the shot more rapidly, and you can smell the blunt smoke, can't you?
Well, yeah, he definitely made that clear that he does that. But yeah, of course, I mean, the vocal cadence of Prince is so similar with him, and that's one thing about this whole album, Voodoo, is he was really paying a lot of homage to Prince, particularly in one song, but it's definitely mentioned for the whole album. And with this track, The Line, this was a very suspenseful track, and so you hear him say, I'm coming to lay down what's going on, because as we know, this took a little over a decade to come back out with this album. So a lot has happened in 12 years when he came out with this album. And so he's like, I know you heard a lot, and I've heard it too, and I'm just coming to set the record straight, and I'm coming to set the record straight, and I'm coming to set the record straight. And it's like, it took so long for me to try to see, what are you trying to say? And he doesn't really address anything in the song. And that's one thing that I got from this.
Right.
And I'm like, well, you just get it. You just say what happened. And so then he goes into, I have a gun and I'm not afraid to pull the trigger. I'm not afraid of danger. And I'm just like, okay, can you set the record straight though on what?
Well, I mean, from what you're saying, maybe it
it
sounds like he's not in a position to be able to do so. If he's having to carry a gun to be able to protect whatever's at stake here. I mean, we can only guess, can't we?
Yeah.
5 years to make the album is a very long time.
Yeah.
Why don't you lead us into Send It On, which was also a single?
This was this was the only track that was literally slightly confusing to me, and I can probably say it was kind of incomplete. So he's starting with affection. He's telling the person, I see your inner soul, we become one. And then, he flips it saying, I need to run. I need to find a better place. And I'm just like, what did I just blinked and missed something here. So this was the only track I can probably say I really couldn't quite get. Like, it was incomplete to me. I couldn't really quite get what you were saying.
Let me run this past you. I mean, all kidding aside, I'm listening to the album, I'm getting the music, I'm not getting all of the phrases maybe in the way you are. I don't know if you looked up the lyrics, I don't know if you could just understand what he was saying, but in a lot of cases, and I know particularly on this latest body of work he has out now, one of the criticisms is that you can't actually hear what D'Angelo's saying, and that's
true.
Not what the music's about. So some of these messages are maybe passing me by, and I'm thinking, I'm in some ways maybe I'm lucky because I'm not sensing the confusion. There's definitely a musical passage happening here.
Right. Well, one thing I can say about the musical aspect of this is it's not so dynamic. He kind of kept. I would probably say the only thing that really changed to me was the tempo. I mean, yes, there are a few different instruments that he's used, like some congos and some not, but I think he relatively kept the instruments the same pretty much throughout.
I've said here that the seductive brass continues on Send It On as hyperventilating females are removed from live venues wherever cornrowed, muscle-bound D'Angelo performs, because
I can understand.
From what I can gather, part of the process of making this album was getting him in shape and having him have this kind of thug next door with the body and the cornrows look.
Yeah, no.
And it wasn't that easy, to pull him out of, from doing the herbage. So, I mean, I guess kudos. I guess he's pretty happy that it happened in terms of the visual, which was such a big part of this album.
Yeah, I can probably say that too.
So Chicken Grease is the next track on the album, and I bought this album when it came out in 2000. I've already said that. I liked Chicken Grease then, I like it now. The syncopation and alliteration keep the bedroom fires burning. If you're not engrossed in your visiting company or significant other by this point, you are officially frigid. Am I right?
This is true. He definitely wanted to relay the message. Stop being uptight. Just relax. Get funky. Have a groove. A good time. And that's what he wanted in this song. And I don't know if you know this, but this, like I said, this whole album was, I feel, it was a homage to Prince. And with this song, Chicken Grease is actually the name of a chord that Prince played in a song, and it's the 9th minor chord while his guitarist was playing 16 notes. And so that's where Chicken Grease came from. So it was kind of like a phrase, make it funky. And that's what D'Angelo did with this song, and I really, really like it.
And I guess the next question, obviously, is do you have Crisco on your stovetop?
I loved it.
I want to go into a little more background about this album. People came and visited. This was a real neo-soul community thing.
He's one of the kings of neo-soul.
People were stopping in. You had Angie Stone, who was a significant other at this point, who has as a kid with D'Angelo. She's in the picture. Common is around. Questlove is goose step with this and responsible for the beats and very happy with the work, and and I think so he should be. You've got Jay Dilla is not credited, but the late Slum Village member is a significant contributor. We lost him, was it to sickle cell, I think?
I think so, yeah.
That he died. Yeah. And then you've got Talib Kweli stopped by. Mos Def stopped by.
Yes.
Eric Clapton stopped by. So did Rick Rubin. So did the Roots. So this is not somebody who's hurting for
No
musical
joke.
company.
And this is where the Crisco reference came from. Is that because he's held so much from greats before him. That's where it comes from. Because Crisco, you can use it over and over again, and it continues to hold the flavors of what it was being cooked with, and that's what he was referencing to himself. And also another thing about chicken grease, I love that he gave a shout out, a head nod to Bootsy Collins in this and the Sugar Hill Gang. So with some of the lyrics, so you have to check it out. It's really
So
chicken grease is nice.
you have to help me out with track 7. One more gin or one more gin? Because in my case, it would definitely be one more gin. But what's he saying here? Is it one more gin? What is one more gin?
It's one more gin.
What is one more gin?
It's like
One more gin?
so when you break this down, it's one more time again, and so yeah, of course with D'Angelo, he has to have that raw. This is one thing about this album; it was very raw, personal, and muddy, and it was very edgy. And so the title of this song says it all right there. So this is definitely a reminiscing track for him. He's missing her. They both have moved on, and now they have their own lives with their significant other. But he really is wanting to let her know that I am still thinking about you. I still care. And not only that, but if there is a breakup, I just want to let you know that you can still call me.
Oh, that's always reassuring to hear. The things were certainly slowed down pace-wise here as Jimi Hendrix and early Sly and the Family Stone are also quoted as references of influence on this album. The bass line is pelvic grinding set to music. Tell me I'm wrong.
This was definitely one of his slowest, one of his slowest tracks. So yeah, I like the way he ended it as well, because he ended it like with him and a young lady having a good time, like walking back to the house, you know. So I'm guessing, you know, you can go either or with that. Either it's like, oh well, you know, back to my life with this girl. Oh well, I see you done came back to my life. Let's go, you know.
Well, and you see with here, because I thought it was part of track 8, but it's actually the end of track 7, is that these jazz funk vibes speed up on the outro to track 7.
That's all this is jazz and funk and R&B and even blues. I mean, he really meshed it very well with this album.
I've got for The Root that I've said it's a mellow vibe with guitars and falsetto vocals. You know, as you've said, stylistically, I mean, and this is not a criticism, is it? Because if you're going to spend however long this album is, like an hour and 15 minutes with D'Angelo, you definitely cannot fault him for the album having this continuous thread. Mm-hmm. But now I'm starting to run out of things to say about it. You know, I'm just now in the zone. I'm imagining, you know, the blunt's been burned down to the tip and we are just like sitting on the sofa like this at this point, like, you know.
Sorry.
Why don't you help me out with The Root?
Well, with The Root, this is clearly stating that, and I'm not sure if this was Angie Stone, but he's clearly stating that a woman in his life has left a dirty stain, a dirty mark in his life. And this is one of those tracks where you're hurt from what they did. And so it's gotten so bad to the point where he's been carrying this pain so long. He mentions that he goes to the doctor finds nothing wrong with him, and he's like, I disagree because I'm feeling all of this pain. And he even goes through symptoms of, I can't feel my legs, my blood is cold, and it's just like he's really, you know, letting out his vulnerable side of him, where he's like, you know, this woman really hurt me, you know.
Yeah.
That was one thing about it. So that's where The Root comes in.
And you see again, what we're seeing here is that you are able to understand what's being said. You can hear it. I don't know if, because obviously I'm a limey, I don't know, but I'm having difficulty understanding the lyrics here, which is not, you know, it's not affecting my enjoyment of the album, but I am missing maybe some of these emotional messages that you're receiving.
Well, you know, even if you don't get, first of all, let's just get this across that D'Angelo is the king of taking probably 8 lines and making a whole song. So whether if you can hear the lyrics or not, you would this would definitely be an album that you would vibe to and really feel. And like you said, you'll probably be sitting here stone, like taking in everything by the time it gets midway of the album. So
yeah. No, it's so Spanish Joint. What have you got for Spanish Joint?
First of all, this song is very significant to the album because I don't know if you noticed, but it almost did not make the album.
Oh.
He was wrapping up the album, and as he was getting ready to leave the studio, he remembered that Spanish Joint was not recorded. And so they had to, this was actually one of the last albums he had to go and do. I love the bass line of this song. And the guitar, it really gives you that Spanish feel, right, but it's still...
And the guitar player is definitely into what's happening.
Oh,
you know?
My gosh.
There's no doubt the music is coming from a genuine place.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that these last few tracks feel more like jazz cuts, don't they?
I kind of got jazz through the whole thing, though.
Yeah.
I mean, this is definitely jazz influenced, which I really love because it's the original genre of music, pretty much. And as far as the message goes for this song, it's this is one of those things I had to listen to over and over again. But it's like when you have a bad day, when you're down, you know, I have this to get me through the day, and it's therapeutic. So he's not really naming that it's a joint, but he's saying that he has something therapeutic to get him through the day.
Yeah. So now my favorite track on the album is Feel Like Making Love, which was a single and a cover of Roberta Flack's classic 1975 hit. Now, it is not easy to take a Roberta Flack song, in my opinion, and make it better because she really is the queen of songwriting, specifically from the 1970s. But although we've seen time and time again her influence on the R&B and hip-hop community, Fugees obviously going on to have a massive hit with Killing Me Softly. But this is my favorite on the album, far away. The brass is cheeky. I love that it's got that sass in it, and it's inventive. And it keeps the intensity of this love-in at a sizzling heat. There's respect for the song, and it is delivered in an unmistakably D'Angelo style. I love the original, and I love this cover version.
Yeah, I really do. First of all, any track on this album with brass, with horns, I am in love with. I mean, they are just melted so greatly. One thing about this song here, Feel Like Making Love, of course it's self-explanatory and it's been covered before, but with this one, Lauryn Hill was actually supposed to be featured on this track.
That's the next thing I was going to... Now, do you know why it didn't work out? Did you hear why it didn't work out?
Why didn't it work out?
It didn't work out because there were too many middle people. Apparently, they were trying to get it done. He said he actually never spoke to Lauryn Hill. He couldn't get through because the middle people got in the way. Which, I mean, I guess she was a major player at that point. I mean, this is like right after Miseducation, or right during the Miseducation campaign. But what a shame.
You know,
do you think it would have worked? I mean, I think he did it justice by himself.
I think he really did justice by himself, and I'm glad that he kept it to himself. No disrespect to Lauryn Hill because she's definitely one of my favorites. But now that you say because he couldn't get in touch with her, there was no contact. It's like when you look at her today, you wonder, well, what has really changed, Lauryn? You know, I don't know. It's not really a great light with her right now. And now that you've said that, it's like...
And it's, I mean, and you know, obviously that's a different review with Lauryn Hill. It's a very tricky, I mean, we just don't know what's going on there. But it is a shame. I mean, it would have been nice to have at least, heard his version, but also heard his version with her.
One thing about this, I do like the conclusion of this song as well. I love the simple things. And so the conclusion of this track is like he's having a good time with this lady and they're like in a lounge area, and it was just the way it sounds. It was just really nice. So. Oh,
cool. Well, good. Good. I mean, I love this. This is my favorite on the album, hands down. I love it. So why don't you lead us in with Great Day in the Morning, Booty. I bet you couldn't wait for me to say that, could you? Booty.
I don't.
Why don't you tell me?
song, this was definitely every day is a learning experience, and so he mentions that he's learned the tricks of life in the past of yesterday, and so it's like I can do it today. Like I got this today. And so that's where he pretty much is going with that. At the end of the day, you have to know the game. I've paid a high price for my mistakes. And so this is where he gets into a mentoring kind of thing where he's giving advice and he's letting you know, you just keep going. I can tell you what I've been through. And that's pretty much what the first part of this song came from. As far as Booty goes, he's really just going over the great parts of the morning. You know, everybody loves the morning, make love in the morning, pray to God in the morning. You know, and that's really what that's about. I have no idea where booty comes from with the significance of that. You know, it's just one thing. But as far as the overall view, I don't know.
Well, our lips are sealed as far as booty in the morning.
I mean, I'm sure it's a great thing, though. Don't get me wrong. So it's probably what he was pointing out.
I'm so sure some of our audience can fill us in with the merits of that. I've got here that it's in keeping with the rest of the album. I'm beginning to fill up stylistically. I've heard my favorite songs, and now you know what it's like. You've heard your favorite. I'm like, yeah, I'm good now. I'm like, okay, I'm starting to wind down on the album. I'm feeling like, you know, feel like Making Love supplied that well-needed variety. And this is sort of going back to styles that we've heard extensively by this point. I'm not dissing it. I've just heard great things already.
Oh, yeah.
So, you know, so here we are on track 12, Untitled. Lead us in.
How does it feel? One of my favorites. Oh my gosh. But this is so, don't look at me like that.
Was it because he was naked?
This was so many people's favorites. This is not because he was naked, and this is actually pretty interesting to most of you. I actually was not feeling this song when I first heard it, when it first came out. And the reason is because of the video. And I know that may shock a lot of you ladies, but that is the reason why.
Untitled caused a lot of buzz for this album. It was the leading promotional single. It won a Grammy for Best Male R&B Vocal. It was apparent that D'Angelo had come back from his sabbatical significantly influenced by the music that he'd been engrossed in.
Not just music.
Now, we don't do mutterings on this show, young lady. Would you care to share with the audience what you just said?
This was, that I mentioned earlier, was one particular song he paid homage to. This was the song that I was talking about. And those sultry ballads that Prince has covered, this was it for D'Angelo. So he's definitely pleading here to this woman to be hers, and that's all he wants to be. He's expressing his sexual desires here, and in a way, it's not about sex. It's about making love, which is kind of like where this whole neo soul thing was going. So he doesn't want to play games with her, and he's really just throwing himself out there like, I want to be yours tonight. And also he gave a heads up to Bob Dylan, and I was like, whoa, like Bob Dylan here in the
Not
in the
surprised.
chorus,
I mean, well, look, here he
lines.
is on positively 8th Street, or is it positively 4th Street? I don't know when, but he's in the Village area. I'm imagining being at the Electric Lady Studios, the Bob Dylan's references, or maybe in the studio with Hendrix recording there as well. For track 13, Africa, had you finished what you were saying?
I was just going to say that I really love the outro. Can I just go quote the lyrics real quick? Okay, so the outro of this is, and I had to really look at the lyrics, but baby, close the door. Listen, girl, I have something I want to show you. I wish you'd open up because I want to take the walls down with you. And I was like, what? Only D'Angelo would say something like that right now.
Yeah.
That really took me. So yeah, I really had to understand. It was definitely years later when this song grew on me. So on to Africa.
For track 13, I imagine Africa's the song that you straighten out the bed to. I'd imagine this is where you sort of, you know, if you don't need to change the linen, you certainly need to get the corners back on the, you know, straighten out the duvet, fluff the pillows, because the bed has gone through Hurricane Katrina at this point. The song is dedicated to his son, I believe.
That I did not know.
And I really like, the mobiles that hang over a baby's crib, they sort of turn around and play the music. Yeah. You heard that there's this sort of mobile sounding effect. It's the lightest on the album, isn't it? It's a sort of it's a light ending to the album. You have this very sort of musical sounding, almost like chimes, almost like wind chimes. And at this point, the album has greatly satisfied. I'm replete. As I said, I've straightened out the bed. And then I guess, 3 months again until I score again. But here we are. We are replete. And we should mention that Africa at the end, don't turn it off when you think it's over, because there is that 30-second or 20-second thing where it rewinds through what you've heard.
Right.
And you could actually listen to that and sort of get a sense of what the album was about. It would be a very abridged version, but that's where my notes kind of finish on this album, Voodoo. And I want to hear your thoughts about the song Africa, but I want to know also why you think this album was called Voodoo.
And that's one thing I really tried to understand, and that's how come I didn't give this album a chance because of the song title, and that's just my ignorance. I should have, but I'm guessing that Voodoo he just really went through the motions of this album, and when you're dealing with Voodoo, of course, you're thinking of the whole witchcraft thing, and somebody is playing with you, somebody's controlling you. And I think that's where he was pinpointing at with this album as far as that title goes. So, yeah. But as far as Africa, I did not know it was probably by his son. But I do love, as far as the song goes, there was no chorus in this song. The chorus was... it was just like harmonized. That was the chorus. There was really no chorus here. But I do love the message of this song, how he was saying that Africa is really his home, and the place that he resides now, which is the United States, is not meant for people of his tone. So people of color is not meant for that. And so he was just going into kind of like that direction, and then he drifts off back in his affectionate mode, where he sees someone that he really likes, and he's let her know that my soul is yours, that we become one. And so that's where he ends it off at. So Africa was going in a direction. This whole album went in a good direction for me. When I read other reviews, they were saying it was confusing, it was paranoid, and I didn't really get any of that.
I didn't get any of that either. I'm so glad that we had the opportunity to have you on the show to review the album. Yes. What we always do here at Running Commentary Album Reviews is come up with a final mark out of 100 that we think is fair to award to the album, and then we take my mark out of 100. We take those two, we add them together, and whatever that divided by 2 is what the final mark is for the album. So, as our guest, why don't you tell us what you give Voodoo by D'Angelo as a final mark out of 100?
For me, not really being a fan of this at first till now, I would definitely, I'm probably going a little overboard, but I would say 90.
90%.
90%.
90%. I've got 86, so we're not that far apart.
Nice.
At 176, that gives us a total, which is 88%. Final mark joint review with R.I. Harmony. Thank you so much for joining us. D'Angelo, Voodoo.